Hello, scholars. So today, in preparation for our speech week, I want to cover the very last thing, and that is what delivery really does for us. And the answer is generally a lot, but I also want to assure you right now that I am less concerned with your delivery than I am with your content. Content is what makes a presentation. Delivery is what polishes it, right? And I want you to think just for a moment, right? We all have a friend that is just so much fun to be around, and everything they say is hilarious, and you're always having a good time around this friend. Uh, but it's all delivery, right? Like you go out someplace to, whether it's to one of the restaurants that you listed a couple of weeks ago, or on vacation, or just to hang out and have coffee one day, and you just have the best time, and you laugh and you giggle and you slap your knee, if that's, I guess, what you do. And then later on that day, you run into another friend that knows this person. You're like, oh, I just saw the funny friend. And they're like, oh, what did they say? And you can't remember because they never really say anything. It's just all delivery. And what we really need from a relationship like this, when we're thinking about business or professional speaking, about furthering our careers, about learning how to be better speakers, we need content first. And as you build content, as you figure out what you're proud of, what you want to share with people, what you're interested in, and the way you want to share that, well, once that's done, then you can start to figure out how to share it, how you want to sound. And I think Phil Davison's a really great example of this, because here we have, quite frankly, terrible delivery. But I want to parcel out just a little bit of the beginning of his presentation, and I want to point some things out to you. And I apologize for maybe what might be presumed as trickery. It's not. Like, what you have to comment about his delivery is completely and totally relevant. But as we listen to this and really actually think about it, some interesting things start to happen. So we'll play a few clips here throughout, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to comment on things. We'll just start off, of course, from the beginning, as we should with every presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Starr County Republican Party Executive Committee, good evening. And thank you not only for your attendance, but for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Phil Davison.
Okay, so what we have here is his attention getter. And while it doesn't seem like a very flashy attention getter, we need to think about the context. He is sitting in a room where he is asking to be a party's nominee to run for a political position. And in those instances, introducing yourself, thanking the audience for their time, like, this is a completely appropriate attention getter. And he hasn't quite gone off the rails with the delivery, but things get a little bit weird as we move forward here.
And I am seeking our party's nomination for the position of Starr County Treasurer on November 10th, November of 2010.
So he starts to jump off, and we giggle a little bit, and that's okay. And it's more fine because, like, he makes fun of himself moving forward after this, where he goes on all these different talk shows. So it's okay for us to talk about it in this way, because he's a really big proponent about using this as a way to jump off and learn about something. But at this point, we're 30 seconds in, and we have an appropriate attention getter. And then he tells us exactly what he wants to do. He gives us a very clear thesis statement, and all of you are completely 100% aware of exactly what he wants to do. He wants the party's nomination to run for Starr County Treasurer, which in and of itself is a perfectly legitimate and very well done thesis statement, right? We all get his intention. We're laughing a little bit, but we all know exactly what he wants to do. So let's listen a little bit more.
Excuse me. In terms of my background, I am from the village of Minerva, where I am serving my 13th year of elected service as a Minerva Council member. In terms of education, I have a bachelor's degree in sociology, a bachelor's degree in history, a master's degree in public administration,
and then, like, a million years later,
and a master's degree in communication.
Here he's explaining his credibility. If we were to look at this on paper, rather than hearing the way he stumbles over it, 13 years of elected service. 4 degrees from higher education universities. 4. 2 undergraduate degrees, 2 master's degrees. He has more degrees than I have. If we look at this on paper, Phil Davison is bursting with credibility. Why wouldn't we trust this man? See what I'm saying here? The content is there. He's just messing things up with delivery.
In terms of elections across Stark County, I have represented our party twice on the county ballot.
Not his first rodeo.
In both the primary and the general elections. When I ran for Stark County Clerk of Courts in 1996 and Stark County Commissioner in 2000, and I will not apologize for my tone tonight. I have been a Republican in times good, and I have been a Republican in times bad.
Now, really, like, he's jumping into the deep end here. But at the same time, listen to that line just a second. I've been a Republican in times good, and I've been a Republican in times bad. That's a very, very powerful line. He's showing that he's consubstantial with his audience. He has things in common with them, that he's been in the trenches, that he is stuck with his political identity and his beliefs through thick and thin. A line like that shouldn't be taken for granted. But we do, of course, because of the delivery. I just want to point out, again, on paper, man, what a great line.
Albert Einstein issued one of my most favorite quotes in the history of the spoken word, and it is as follows. In the middle of opportunity, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. I'm going to repeat that so I have clarity tonight. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity.
Even this is something we can learn from, though. If you mess up a quote while you're speaking, it's okay to go back and fix it. He's exhibiting good behavior in that manner, right? So he messes up his favorite quote, and then he turns around and says, you know what, I just want to make sure everybody gets that. And if we can recognize in ourselves when we need to take a moment and backtrack and make sure we get things right, most audiences aren't going to be upset with us at all. And finally, he gives us a very clear preview of what he wants to get done in this presentation.
This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. The Stark County Treasurer's Office is a mess. It is in dire need of structure and guidance. And now is the time to seize this opportunity with an aggressive campaign and an even more aggressive campaigner.
This kind of ends his introduction. He tells you the 2 things that he wants to cover. That there's a need for structure and guidance. And now is the time for an aggressive campaign with an even more aggressive campaigner. Man, another honestly really good line. So the follow-up to this is, of course, Phil did not get run for Stark County Treasurer because that delivery did really sink in. But also, he went back to the village of Minerva where he's from, and he became mayor for the next 3 years, after 13 years of having been on the city council. So clearly he doesn't talk like this all the time. Something just happened in this instance. And let me tell you, right here, right now, record it so that you can come back and you can use it against me if something happens. If something happens this next week while you're speaking, where you suddenly start in with the Phil Davison delivery, you're not going to score that poorly, okay? What we're looking for is your content. Are you following those steps of Monroe's? Are you relating to your audience, using the information you've gathered by speaking with them? And then are you comparing and contrasting your video presentation software in a way that makes sense to us to help us make a better choice as we move forward? I promise you, I'm more concerned with those things than how you sound and how good your eye contact is. But that doesn't mean that those things aren't important. We don't want you to read to us. We don't want you to shout at us. We want to be able to hear you, see your eyes, and interact with you in a way that matters. So, I'm looking forward to things here this next week. If any of you want to chat, please, 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 just ask. I'm here, and I mean, Willow will be probably sitting in the background when we chat, and that's perfectly fine. We're lucky right now because she's very exhausted from a good run on the beach this morning. We'll see what happens this next week when I don't have as much time. So, folks, I'll talk to you soon, and thank you very much, as always, for your attention.